Hi, this is Brandon with Precision Defensive Solutions, and I'm sitting here with Matt. And Matt is one of our past students, and you had quite an experience that you called me about. And I thought, well, let's sit down and talk about it. So, you want to talk about yourself a little bit there, Matt?
Sure. Hi, Brandon. It
Hey.
was very interesting because in your class you were talking about the memory fog or loss of memory during a traumatic incident, and I didn't believe you, but I didn't realize how traumatic it needed to be in order to experience this. So I drove up on to a car accident. Um, I didn't witness the car accident. There were very little injuries. The driver, it was actually a cement truck. So as I parked my car, I was with my wife, the cement truck was on its side, and it was moments after it had rolled over. The front tire that was in the air was still in motion, to be honest. So I missed it by, couldn't have been very long, maybe half a minute. And so my instinct was jump out and grab the first aid kit and run over and see if there's something we can do. We didn't have much in the car with us, unfortunately, but maybe we can do something. So the people that were already standing there, they said that he was pinned. The driver was pinned. The truck was on its side, and I walked up and I asked what we can do to help, and he didn't say anything. But I noticed the engine was still running, so. Like, man, we got to get this engine off. The truck is on its side. The oil's in places the engine that shouldn't be, and it's pumping gas and oil. And there was a big oil spill of diesel fuel. And we, I reached in and I started fumbling around. There was plastic bits of the dashboard blocking the key. The driver told me, he said, the key is on the dashboard. So on a truck, it's on the dash, not a steering column. So I was able to find the key and I turned the truck off. So I knelt down onto the ground and I reached through the window and I turned the truck off. And as I stood up, the people around me said, EMS is here, EMS is here. So, okay, great. So the first thing that we could talk about is the time. So I don't know how much time that went by there, but I got out of the car. The front tire was still in motion. And by the time I turned the truck off, EMS was there. So my best guess, if they dispatched from the nearest location, it had to have been 10 minutes for them to drive well over the speed limit for normal EMS down the freeway and exit and get to our location. So in my mind, I reached in, turned the truck off, and they were there. So I don't know how much time had passed, but it was literally a blink of an eye.
Right. And that's a normal kind of phenomenon with that slowed time factor, that people don't realize just how extreme that actually is. But then when you look back on it and you go, my God, that was, that couldn't have been that fast.
It couldn't have been. It had to have been longer than a blink of an eye for sure.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, so I've told this story to a couple of close friends, and we were just trying to play it. I was trying to play it out in my mind. So in my mind, I drew a little picture if you'd like to post that. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I knelt down onto the ground and I reached through the driver's door window. So in my mind, this is what the scene looked like. But in reality, the truck was perfectly on its side. The driver's door was face down onto the pavement. And the reality is I reached through the front windshield. The windshield was missing. So
wow.
Still to this day, we're a week and a half, almost 2 weeks later, still to this day, I can't picture that. I can't picture reaching through the windshield over the steering wheel instead of next to it. So that was very, very interesting that I can't really place that. And then the second thing, I've tried really hard to figure out what color the truck was. Mm-hmm. I remember looking at the drum of the cement mixer, and I remember that the cement was pouring out of the top because the truck was on its side.
Right.
But if it was a Carr Brothers truck, that drum should have been orange, bright orange.
Right.
Brandon, I could not tell you what color that drum was. I don't know if it was white or black or orange. No idea. So that was huge because if it were orange, it'd kind of tell me where the truck was coming from or who it was. But the fact that it's missing, perhaps an orange big drum is missing. I don't know what color it was.
Right. And that's kind of interesting that after a couple of weeks that hasn't come back, I guess, because I would have thought that by now you would have had some idea.
Not
but
on the color.
yeah, but I mean, obviously your brain didn't process it at all. So
Right. So my mechanical intuition tells me, hey, I reached through the windshield and I can comprehend that now because I know the truck was on its side.
mhm,
Even if I were to draw a picture like what you posted, the truck was like the bottom half was missing. Essentially, it was missing in my memory. So that
well,
was
and that video that you sent me, I'm gonna add that in here too, so people can kind of see, um, from what you guys got on your cell phone. But I mean, people need to understand that you're not even going by what you got on your cell phone. You're going by literally what you remember seeing.
right. So the driver, he was banged up. There was evidence of the glass breaking and cutting him. But for the most part, my level of trauma was like inexistent. I walked up to a truck that was on its side. So
Right.
if something this insignificant to me could be so impactful where I have the memory fog, what would actually happen if the worst were to happen and I actually needed to defend myself or something like that. So that's the part of this story that really surprises me because something that should be insignificant had such a big impact. So what's going to happen when something really significant happens? Not when, hopefully never, but
Right. Yeah, hopefully never. But I mean, it's kind of tough to tell. And I mean, this is one of the reasons why we say, training under stress, because I mean, you don't live far from the range, and I know you get out and shoot a little bit, probably not as much as you'd like to with your work schedule,
right.
but standing in a stall, and pacing yourself versus having somebody place that, put you in a controlled environment, but with stress, that can kind of help with that. But when you experience it for the first time like that, it's just, it's mind blowing on how impactful it actually is.
Absolutely.
Even with just, I mean, even just with a car accident that you're, like you said, you're just driving up on. I mean, it's a thing. Um, so let me ask you, you said you didn't have a whole lot of, medical supplies in the car. Has that changed your perspective on keeping more in the car?
Well, we have to figure out what is applicable, right? So I know we have a tourniquet and I know we have some basic, bandages and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
something to clean it out with. And I know we have gloves. We did get some of the mouth protectors for CPR.
Okay.
So those are in each one of the cars now. And my wife actually keeps one on her keychain. As far as medical professional, I'm a mechanic. So my training is basically stops after CPR. And that's something I wish I could change. And going forward, I believe it's going to happen. My wife she does work in a doctor's office. So she is a trained medical professional, but not necessarily with the trauma and first responder stuff. So she goes beyond what I know, but it was a really helpless feeling looking at this guy, he was holding himself up, the driver. He
Hmm.
was holding himself up with the passenger seatbelt because his leg was somehow pinned or injured. So
Right.
he was leaving some weight off his leg. And I'm standing there and there's nothing in my knowledge that I know what to do. And it was really a helpless feeling, which I don't like. I don't like not being able to help somebody.
Sure. Well, I mean, when you've got a victim that's pinned, it's kind of tough to do a whole lot,
Right.
because the risk of further injury is so much greater. Um, but I'm glad to hear that you're carrying a tourniquet with you. Um, when we talk about blood loss, because basic CPR, things like that. Have you thought about a chest seal?
Um, I I have thought about it, but I don't think we have one yet. So it's something we're going to need to invest in.
Yeah, because I mean,
I
so
know
many
we don't
people
have
think,
that in our,
yeah,
but
yeah, so many people think chest seals for gunshot wounds, but any puncture wound in the chest, I mean,
yeah, I mean it could have been a seatbelt or a glass or anything that could have got him.
hmm, yep, and I mean, the idea of stopping the blood loss with the chest seal is kind of the same as a tourniquet. It's just for the body, um,
Right.
and it literally is just a peel and stick. So it's something real easy to learn how to do.
What
And
would
I
have
know,
been
mhm,
what would have been super, super helpful if that situation had gotten 5 minutes worse? What
mhm,
a fire extinguisher. I
mhm,
have a fire extinguisher in my old classic Jeep, but I don't have one in my modern car, my everyday car.
right.
Truck would have caught on fire because the engine was on its side and it was pumping diesel and oil and who knows what else could have been rubbing. Fire extinguisher may have been the absolute most helpful device in that situation.
Yeah. And it's something that most people don't even carry with them.
If if it were an old diesel truck, the key wouldn't have turned it off. I would have had to pull the lever to disable the fuel pump. So if that cable was broken or pinned or I couldn't get to it, that truck would have never turned off, and that could have been a huge problem the longer it ran.
Right. Yeah. And see, those are all things that you don't even think about in most cases. And because I know I wouldn't have thought about that because I've never dealt with a truck like that. I would have been looking for a key or a button or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, I
It
I
was
think
it was a really interesting situation, and I'm thankful that um, EMS got there so quickly. But in my mind, I really feel it was quick. I don't know how long it took them to get there. We called
yeah,
911 as soon as we got out of the car, and they said they already had a call in. So, but again, we're talking. I was pulling up when the front tire was still in motion.
yeah,
It couldn't have been very long.
right. And we're talking, so where they came from, what is that, about 6 miles, give or
That
take?
sounds right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
So I mean,
6 miles on the freeway at a 65-mile-per-hour speed limit.
right. I mean, so I mean that's, yeah, they're booking down pretty quick. You figure by
Yeah,
the time they
kudos
get their
to them.
gear and
They
go.
they did a really good job responding. And they pulled out the generator and they started pull. I saw them pull start it, and I can only assume they were getting jaws of life out to cut the top of that truck off.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what they were doing. Yeah, I'm sure. So this is pretty incredible, and I'm glad that you're willing to talk about it. I'm sorry that you had to experience it, but I'm glad you experienced it too because now you know what it feels like. Um, the one thing I will kind of give you a little hint on is Mountain Man Medical has some online trauma training.
Okay.
So if you want to take a look at that, I know they've got one course that's free, and I think the other course is like $2.
Okay.
And the guy that teaches it, Brian McLaughlin, is a combat medic, and he does a phenomenal job with these. So, with your schedule, that may be a good fit for you to kind of get at least something in, uh,
Right.
to add to that. But I really appreciate you sharing this. So is there
I
anything else you'd like to share on it?
um I don't know if there's much else I can share. I wish I knew how to get a hold of the driver and wish him the best of recovery. I know he was responsive and awake when I was there in the truck, but after that, that's probably what made me focus on the color of the truck so bad, because, maybe I can go back to the company, if I saw the logo or something. But if it was a logo on a door, it would have been vertically up in the air or touching the ground. So I would never see the door. But I can
Right.
tell you what color the truck was. And I thought a lot about what color, and I can't recall it.
Well, we'll see if we can't figure that out for you. So, Mike Tanner knows one of the assistant chiefs over there at that department. So maybe we can find that out for you.
Yeah.
So, and if we do, I'll definitely let you know.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So everybody out there, just understand that, what Matt experienced is like you said, it seems to be very insignificant, but had a major impact. Just understand that this stuff is not what you think it is, and trauma is trauma, and it does affect you. So be safe out there and be prepared.
Yeah, body reacts to stress in a million different ways.
Yeah, it sure does.
One of them.
Yep, sure does. So, all right, everybody, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.